Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Valleen, joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
Doing well. We've both gone on a little bit of a shopping spree after last week's 3DS Wii U news.
Yeah, we'll be
So
getting
that's
into
been
that
fun.
a little bit later of some pickups and what everyone should be keeping an eye out for in these next couple of months. We've also got Zach Ross. How you doing, Zach?
Good. I bought Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, spoilers! That's mine.
Just kidding.
Yeah, having to ship the games to an address that's not in Japan because it's either they won't ship here or I'm spending double the price of the game. So I'm not gonna do that.
It's illegal.
Yeah, against eBay terms of service or something, just like the Pokemon Center breaking their terms of service.
Just like
Anyways,
Nintendo
Yep.
Switch Sports,
oh my
which
god,
I did not play for like 3 hours
Me
over the
neither.
weekend.
no
I
thoughts
Did
on
not
that.
enjoy and did not think was pretty comparable to Wii Sports. I did not do any of those things.
Anyways, that's not the biggest thing we got to talk about. Horizon Forbidden West. It's here. Two of us have played it, not me. I am waiting on a PS5, but both Logan and Zach have played it. So, what are your thoughts? Zach? You're about 8 hours in. Logan around 15. What are you thinking so far of Forbidden West?
Logan and I are in about the same place. He's doing a lot more side stuff than I am. I figured I would beeline it, and if I enjoyed it at the end, I would go back and do a lot of the side content. But Logan's sparsing it out through his playthrough, so we're pretty much in the same place for the main story, and I've been liking it so far. I haven't loved it as much as I thought I would. I thought it would have clicked a lot more, and that I would have been a lot further into it at this point since I've had it since it came out. But I'm really taking my time with it because I haven't really felt the urge to just sit down and play it all day, every day, like I have with some games in the past. So I am liking it, but not nearly as much as I thought I would. And I think Logan's in a similar place.
Yeah, there's a lot to love in Horizon Forbidden West. I think the combat is fantastic. There's Zach and I, if you remember, we played Horizon Zero Dawn together, passing the controller every 60 seconds. And it's a pretty intricate combat system that was a little bit hard to get invested in when you're only playing half the game half the time. So, really being able to sink my teeth into the combat in Forbidden West, I'm really appreciating it this time around. Getting to know each individual machine is super fun, and zooming in with the slowdown and shooting off the components and collecting those afterwards, it's super satisfying. And there's specific quests that even play into that, where it's like, oh, I need this part from this machine, but to get it, you have to shoot it off before you kill them because it disappears when they die. So just really fun ways that it plays with the combat. And all the different arrow types with the acid or the freezing are really fun to play around with, and the burning. So that's all super fun. When you're roaming around in the world, fighting these giant machines, that's when the game's at its peak. The side stories are also really cool in this game. They have the same voice acting quality, cutscene quality as the main quests, and they do a really cool thing where there still are the fetch your errands quests, where it's just like, oh, I need 10 pieces of this item, go find it for me. But they separate those on your quest screen. You got main quest, which is the main path, side quest, which is the character driven, in depth side stories, and errands, which is just the fetch quest stuff. So if you're following a side quest, you know it's going to be pretty good. So that's actually what's been driving me to complete some of the side content. Is that I know if I pick side quest, it's probably going to be a good time that fleshes out the world and the characters a little more. So I really like that about it too. And it's just a gorgeous game. It is the best looking PS5 game, I think. I haven't really played Demon Souls, so I know people think that one looks amazing, but it feels like the reason to have a PS5 finally. Like Kev, I totally think it's the right call to wait until you have a PS5 to play this game because it just looks incredible. Going the night sky just filled with thousands of stars looks gorgeous. The machines just look amazing and they're so intricate and well designed. It's just a beautiful game to look at. Playing in performance mode, so the 60 FPS mode, 1440p, and it's just a joy to look at. So those are all the positive things I have to say. I'm enjoying it a lot. Mostly the combat and the side stuff is what I'm getting a lot out of.
Well, and that's it. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess you guys were playing it in a different way, so it was a little bit harder to do some of the side content. But I do remember that didn't really draw you in at all from the first game in Zero Dawn.
Yeah,
side
in the
quests.
first game, we really didn't do much side stuff at all. We mainly just focused on the main quest because, like he said, we were passing it back and forth. So focusing on side content wasn't really our prerogative. But in Horizon Forbidden West, Logan and I were talking about some of the side quests that you do in the first town that you get to, and that you get weapons from them. And I've mainly been using the bow this entire time because I don't have a lot of other viable options because I'm not doing these side quests. Because by the time I had left that area and then move on to the other stuff, I had learned from Logan that there were weapon availability in the prior areas that I just missed out on. So I've mainly just been using the bow, which starts to feel samey after a little while. So that was a little annoying. But then eventually through the main quest, you do get a couple other items. Nothing that I love, but I did just get like the sharpshooter bow that's much stronger, which I remember liking from the original game. So if you're looking for more weapon variability, I do recommend doing side quests earlier rather than later because, yeah, like I said, I haven't had many options in terms of combat.
I still think the bow is just the best, though.
It
I
is the
get all
best
these other
weapon, which is
things.
why I've been able to progress as far as I have. The bow's really viable, but yeah, like I said, it's just slow down time, shoot the thing, slow down time, shoot the thing. Yeah.
And speaking of slowing down time, this is something I really appreciate. They do a really quick throwaway line in the introduction to the game where Aloy's like, "Oh, I ran into some trouble a while back and lost all my gear." So that's how they address losing everything from the first game. Just a quick throwaway line. But something I really appreciate about this is a lot of the basic skills that you had to upgrade via a skill tree in the original, Aloy just has now. And a big example of that is the slowdown time, where you click the right stick when you're scoping with your bow and arrow, and it does the slowdown, so you can aim for a specific component you want to shoot off or a weak spot. And then things like overriding monsters. You don't know how to override specific ones, but that was a skill you didn't have right away in the original either. And she just remembers how to do that. So there's like the ram machine that you can instantly override, and then you can mount the ram and ride it around the world. So I think that was handled in a really good way where it's not a total reset and Aloy has forgotten how to do everything from the first game. Some of those like necessities, like the slowdown specifically, are already there from the jump, so you can just hop right back into the combat.
Yeah,
and
that's nice.
Those additions are still upgradable through skill trees. There's an array of skill trees in this game that you can choose to put your skill points into. There's like stealth, weaponry, physical attack. Those are the three I've focused on, and I think there's a couple others that I haven't really paid attention to, like maybe scavenging and other stuff like that. But yeah, I've focusing on the Hunter one. My ability to slow down time lasts way longer now, so I recommend getting that pretty early on because it's really helpful. And also just stealth, I think, is a really important thing to focus on because stealth killing really saves you a lot of time. And
it's overpowered.
It's really good.
Monsters instantly.
Yeah. So those are the two skill paths that I have decided to focus on the most.
I also think human combat is a little better. They felt like total sponges in Horizon Zero Dawn. Felt like you could load a human up with like 8 arrows before they would go down. But there's still some of that here. But especially headshots are way more rewarding to get in this game. So the human combat feels a little better.
You still do the thing where you hide in the bush and then jump out and kill somebody, go back in the bush, and then they walk over, kill them again, and there's like a pile of
combat.
Like 8 dudes.
Yeah, that wasn't the AI. The enemy AI is still not human-wise.
Yeah.
Machine-wise, it's awesome. But then the melee combat is also still pretty useless. Which I always thought in the original, it's not good.
Not like you really were required to use it very often. You always had other options that were much better than the
my bow and arrow
combat.
Does way more damage than Aloy charging up with all of her might and whacking something with a spear, which does like nothing. And I've heard it's better if you invest in that skill tree path, but I guess I wish, like the other stuff, I wish it was a little more improved right out of the gate, and then it just gets cooler and better with newer stuff through the skill tree.
Yeah, you don't really want to have to upgrade it just to make it viable.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison to other weapons where it's like, why in the world would I even waste my time upgrading this? I can just upgrade the stuff that's already good and can make it better. But what are you gonna do? I mean, the bow and arrow combat was really fun in the first game, so it makes sense that you'd be doing that the most out of any of the combat styles. How's the world though in terms of traversal? Is it fun to explore the world? I know it's pretty, but
it's very beautiful to look at, which makes it fun to go through. I find myself, since the distances you need to cover are so great, I find myself just plowing through on one of my my mounts when you turn a robot and you're able to ride it across the land. I find that the easiest solution, but when you're doing that, it's hard to stop because they're going so fast. So you kind of just end up passing a lot of stuff just to get to your place you need to go. And I only end up really stopping to activate campfires, which act as fast travel points. So I can go back later. So I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time actually exploring the open world, which sounds bad, but I don't really find myself wanting to, for the most part.
Yeah, this is the part where the game starts to, I don't know, feel really bloated to me. I think the open world bloat in Horizon Forbidden West is really extreme. I think that there's, I don't know if too much to do is the right way to say it, but there's an overwhelming amount of information coming your way all the time, and it almost just makes me want to like shut down my brain a little bit. For example, just the sheer number of materials that exist in this game. Every machine type, of which there are like 40 or 50, which is great. I love the variety in the combat, but every machine type has its own drops, and they all have like 3, 4, or 5 drops, and you need very specific items to upgrade any piece of gear. And there's also things to just collect in the open world too. So that is overwhelming in itself. But then just the icon dump, which I've said many times on this show, I do not really like open world games that just barf icons all over your map, kind of the Ubisoft formula. I'm really not a fan of that, and this game is really, really bad about that. It's the same formula as the first, where you scale up the tall neck in a pretty cool puzzle to get to the top of it, but puzzles have other issues we'll talk about in a second. And then you override the tall neck, and then your map is just flooded with things to do. And a lot of them are question marks, so you don't know what they are until you go there. But your map is just covered in white icons, and it takes away basically any sense of discovery and really just makes it feel like you are completing an enormous, gorgeous checklist. It really feels that way. Nothing really feels organic to me exploring the world in Horizon Forbidden West, because even monster locations are always marked on your map, like where they patrol, which is almost a necessity because of how the upgrade tree works, where you need a part from this monster, you're gonna want to know where to find it fast. But from a discoverability standpoint, it's like there's never that moment of like walking over the hill, and what do you see? You see this giant thunder jaw down there that you're way too underleveled to fight, and you run away. That's a really cool moment, but I'm never going to go that way, because after I override the tall neck, I see on my map exactly where the thunder jaw is before I've even been there. So that's just really frustrating for me, as I know that it's exhausting to compare Horizon to Breath of the Wild, because that's all anyone does, but that game and Ghost of Tsushima, a PlayStation first-party game that handled the map really well, not flooding it with stuff until you found it yourself. I just personally prefer that way more, because it makes me feel like I have some agency over how I'm playing the game and exploring the world, rather than being really guided by the developer and handheld through the entire experience.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. What I was trying to say is that since I know where everything is, I've got a waypoint and I'm going towards it. I don't need to look around because I know exactly where it is. That's kind of the same boat. And with Ghost of Tsushima, yeah, it was really important to just look around and find stuff yourself, which made it much easier to appreciate the open world. So definitely get what you're saying.
Did they ever... I remember the inventory in the first game being a little bit annoying. You were talking about how everything has so many different drops. And of course, that means that each of the drops stacks differently in the inventory. And I remember you had to fumble around in the inventory a lot in the first game because you would just like run out of space. Is that the same here, or did
there's a new
is there
box
a stash
system
in the first game? I don't think that's in
I
the
don't
first
think
game.
there was. I think this is a new
Like
system. So
like a separate location where you can just stash stuff for later?
Yeah, so
Kinda.
if
Like
you ever are
like a
full on your
box or a home or
inventory,
something?
like if you're full on healing items, full on potions, Aloy says every time she says it, uh, I'll have this in my stash for later. I'll put this in my stash for later. And then any settlement you go to, you can stop by the box. It looks just like the Monster Hunter box that you stop by before you go on a mission, and you can restock there. So
Okay.
everything that overstocks goes there, and that seems new to me. It's been a while
Yeah,
since Zero Dawn, so I didn't
I
remember for
don't
sure.
particularly remember that. I feel like that would have made the inventory system a lot more manageable.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even look at my inventory because it's so overwhelming. I just look. Do I have what I need to upgrade this or
Yeah, does
nope?
it like check the
Okay,
box or whatever?
I'll check back in a few hours. But one cool thing they can do is you can set something as a job. So if you need like a lens to complete your
Mhm.
bow upgrade, you can set that as your active quest. And then on your map, it will set your waypoint marker to like a herd of those machines. Like I said, they're all on the map. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, go here. But then if you don't get it from a random drop there, Aloy will be like, oh, I'll go to this other camp. And then it marks a new one on your map. So that's a good way to farm materials
Okay,
if you
yeah.
need to. But again, the map is just so cluttered that it's kind of obnoxious to me.
Yeah, speaking of Aloy talking about things, you wanna talk about that? Because
Dude,
I know you're pretty outspoken on that from
This
when
is
we've
my-
talked
this
a
is my
couple of
biggest
times
thing.
about
This-
Forbidden West.
this is my biggest issue of the game. It's all kind of goes hand in hand with Guerrilla Games not letting me do anything myself, is what it feels like. They tell you where everything is on the map, and then Aloy tells you the solution to every puzzle the second you walk into a room. Like, for example, you have a glider in this one where you can jump down and then sail across. Anytime you need to use it, Aloy says, looks like I can glide over to that platform. I'm like, why are you telling me this? I can figure that out. Or she's like, oh, I can pull that crate down. Oh, that's too high for me to get up to. I'll need to shoot that down. And it's endless. And I was showing the game to my girlfriend who just watched me play it for the first time earlier. And it was during this big puzzle section. And she was like, I don't even play games. And I realize how obnoxious and bad this is. Like, it's so ridiculous how much she talks. Just everything. You don't solve anything yourself. And for me, it's like, if you're not going to let me solve a puzzle, what purpose is this puzzle serving in your game besides padding the runtime? Because it's just mindless. It's just point A to point B, doing exactly what you tell me to do. No satisfaction of completing it myself because you told me the solution. And I've never seen something like this in any game I've ever played that just straight up tells you right away what to do. And the puzzles aren't even that complicated. But Zach, have you been feeling that too with just the chattiness of Aloy?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like you said with the glider sections, because every single time you need to use the glider, she's just like, I gotta glide down there. I gotta glide over there. I'm like, all right.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm going away. We're not
nothing else,
gliding.
yeah. Oh man, I love the climbing mechanic. I think it looks really good, and I think it's just the right amount of difficult because I've fallen down a few times, but she falls gracefully, and she doesn't really die when she falls. Like she can survive a good amount of falling, and they're good with checkpoints there. So I like the climbing puzzles. I think they're done pretty well, but those are the only puzzles I really enjoy. So.
So what do you, I guess the story. How's that? The main campaign.
The main campaign is well. Okay,
I mean, I guess from
starting
the start,
off.
from
Starting off, I
hours.
had to watch a recap video of the first game because I had forgotten pretty much everything. None of it really stuck with me. I don't attribute that to us playing it together in a speedy fashion. I just think that it wasn't something that stuck with me because that's just the kind of story it was. So once I watched the recap video, it all came back, and then it kicks off about I think 6 months after the events of the first game. Everyone knows who Aloy is. Everyone loves Aloy. She's the hero. And then it's just continue on your path to save the world. Just fetch questing, fetch questing to save the world.
That's the main story.
Uh-huh.
There's a little more. There's kind of a twist early on in the game.
There's an interesting twist.
they hit everything
like
about
4 or
what the
5 hours
game
in.
is really about in pre-release stuff. Like there's a twist that shows some new characters and stuff that's not in any pre-release
Well, that's good.
trailer. So it's interesting, curious to see where it goes. But I think I was talking about this to one of you, I don't remember, but I like the side quest stories more. I think there's a lot of heavy sci-fi jargon in the main quest, even more so than the first game. Because the first game's really mysterious. You don't really know what the world is till almost the end of the game, and then it's revealed to you. And then there's a ton of exposition about all these programs, like what is Zero Dawn, what are these companies, and the second one doubles down on all that stuff. And there's a lot of that really specific jargon to this game that is a little tough to follow sometimes. But the side quests are super cool because it's just like the characters existing in this world and their problems, which are pretty interesting. Like the first town that you go to is there's this guy who is leading the town, but he kind of just decided he was the leader and no one really likes him at all, and he's causing all these problems. And so you're kind of cleaning up all of his messes that he's left all over the town. And then once you complete every side quest in that town, there's a big confrontation scene with him. And the main characters are like, oh, and you did this and you did this, and it's all the quests that you completed. And so like if you did something wrong or you missed one of the quests along the way, they emit that line of dialogue from this big confrontation scene. And that's super cool. It's really dynamic, and it is one of the only cases in this game that is pretty linear that feels like things I'm doing are having an impact on the characters. So that's super cool, and that's the reason I'm actually digging into the side stuff. Is I just found the story is really interesting. And the main quest, I don't dislike it. It just hasn't grabbed me yet because we're still pretty early on.
Yeah.
So we don't really know where it's going for sure yet.
I definitely do find the characters that are introduced in the main quest pretty enjoyable. I think they're really cool. So, yeah, so far.
The voice acting's great, and the cutscenes are great. The conversations are really good. So yeah, the presentation is all just gorgeous, and yeah, I'm a big fan of all that.
Did you do any swimming? I forgot to ask. Because
This
I was
might
wondering
be the
how
best
much
water has ever looked in any video game.
looked okay. How about played in?
The swimming's great. I have done some swimming. I haven't done any underwater combat.
Yeah, because I was curious.
There's a
kind of
part
about
where you
that,
have to
how-
swim around.
If there is
one
any.
of the points in the game there, and it's really good. She has a breath meter. Doesn't last particularly long, but she's pretty capable underwater.
Yeah, I know one of the things you get eventually is a mask so you can breathe underwater, and don't have that. I've heard that's pretty late in the game, so we don't have that yet. But yeah, it's solid. It's not like revolutionary underwater traversal, but it works. It doesn't feel as bad as a lot of underwater swimming
Yeah, that's the
can.
concern.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
like-
think underwater sections will ever feel great in like any game. So this one's pretty good for underwater as far as it goes.
All right. I guess last thing, where is it sitting so far between it and Zero Dawn? Obviously, you're not super far into it yet, but where are your thoughts so far on it compared to the original?
Right now, I'd say this one's on par. I'd say they're pretty similar in my head, but that's still, like you said, capable of changing since I'm not super far into it.
Yeah, I like it more so far than Zero Dawn. I think that, it's just a treat to look at, so that makes all of my complaints with it a little easier to stomach, just because it is super fun to run around. And I do think they have improved a good number of things in the game from the original. Like the climbing is much better. It was really gated to just those like yellow rope in the original, and in this one, there's more touch points on every surface that you can kind of climb around. So that's a lot better. So yeah, I like it more than the original, and the combat is just that's where it shines. Like I almost wish it was like a linear game with a bigger focus on the combat system they've made, because I could do without all the open world stuff, and it's really when you're in a field fighting a giant snake or something like that where it's like, yeah, this is the best part about this game. And Machine Strike, the new board game, the strategy board game that's in here, I have played.
Why is this a
everybody
thing in
I come
games
across.
Because
It's
everyone
really
loved
good.
like Gwent and
Yeah.
the other ones.
Yeah, Gwent was fun.
They always got to throw in some sort of
Condor.
card game or board game or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you've got the group of people that's
You
like,
got a
yeah, I've
spin-off.
spent like 200 hours in Gwent and I played the main campaign for 10 hours. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. So if you like the first Horizon, you'll like this game a lot, because I think it is a improvement on that one in a lot of ways. I've just never been the biggest open world fan in general, and this one just has a lot of symptoms of that genre that I'm not a super big fan of. But it's good. It's a really great game.
The one time that you can crack out your PS5 before it goes back in the corner, Logan.
Dude, I actually my
Or
PS5. I haven't talked about it on this show, but my PS5 was having this issue where it never thought it had enough space to install something, and I had like 150 gigs free, and it wouldn't install anything, and it only would if you deleted something. So
there was
I
just
had all
150
tiny
gigs of
games
like
installed of nothing.
of no space. Okay.
Tonight I was gonna play more Horizon before the show, and I turned on my PS5. I launched Horizon, and then my PlayStation didn't make any noise or anything. It just turned off. My PlayStation 5 just shut off, and then it took 5 minutes to turn back on, and then it had to rebuild the database. And I was
that's
like,
always
no,
terrifying.
And now that problem is gone. It was installing updates and installing everything with no issue, but there's a new issue, which is that the icon art for all of my PS5 games is like a template. It's like a little like image not found picture.
Oh.
The PS4 games are there, like Fall Guys.
So weird.
Is there, but like Horizon and Astros and Deathloop are just this image of like a picture frame. But all PS4 games are there. It's super bizarre.
Do you need to rebuild the database again?
I don't know.
Keep doing it.
More problems. Who knows?
It's a better problem though than not being able to install
That's
games.
true.
Had you looked it up online if other people were having the issue, or
people were like, "Yeah, you gotta like hard factory reset your PS5."
God,
I don't want to do that. So it just decided to fix it. It's like, yeah, I'm shutting down now.
I'll just fix it myself.
Yeah,
but didn't fix everything. Great new issues. Oh, well.
Yeah, but no, I'm playing more on my PlayStation lately. I'm gonna play The Witcher because Zach picked The Witcher for me to play.
You're not waiting for the
game
for the updated version now that Cyberpunk's out.
We'll see. Maybe.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have more thoughts on Forbidden West in the next couple of weeks as you guys get through more of the game and eventually finish it. But
yeah.
We want to talk about the Uncharted movie a little bit.
Yeah. How is it, Kev?
It was okay. It wasn't great. It didn't offend me. It wasn't that bad. It was just fine.
I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. I think Mark Wahlberg could fit Sully better than Tom Holland could fit Nathan Drake. I don't know what it is. It's just the character that they have in the game, and Tom Holland as Nathan Drake is just it doesn't feel right. I don't know. Like, even though he's the young version of himself, like it doesn't feel 100% right, where you knew that you were watching it just didn't feel the same. And obviously it wasn't going to feel exactly the same, but looking at that fan film that they made with Nathan Fillion, it's like that is the feeling of the games, and that is the feeling of Nathan Drake. And you watch this and you're like, this is Tom Holland trying to be Nathan Drake. Mark Wahlberg, I think, was better than Tom Holland in terms of evoking the character of Sully. I actually kind of liked him in the movie. It starts off really quick and tries to explain everything, and I could see people who don't know Uncharted very well being kind of lost because they set everything up really fast, from like a flashback scene to Nate and Sully meeting to them being together. Me and my girlfriend went to see it, and she was like, why did they pair up so quickly? And it's like, I didn't know why. Like, it looked like he wasn't going to pair up, and it's like, oh, I'm in. Like, it was just like, boom, we're going, and then we're going into the thing. Like, I could see people being a little bit lost who haven't played the games. And then for people who have played the games, like, oh, this is a little different. Like, this isn't right. And then, of course, you have the set pieces that are taken from the games. And we know that they were. They've shown those off a lot in trailers, which makes me hopeful that this is completely separate and they don't try and combine the universes whatsoever, because then it wouldn't make any sense, because then you're in the fourth game and it's like, Nate, you've already done this before in the movie or whatever.
Climbed a cargo plane.
Yeah, you've done all
falling
these
out of the
things.
sky.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that they just keep these completely separate. But it does evoke the feeling of Uncharted in terms of both the set pieces and just going after the treasure, and it follows the same tropes that the Uncharted games followed. And you know, you've got the big villain that is going after the same treasure or whatever, and you gotta stop them, and you know, it's Uncharted light, basically.
Does it feel like a National Treasure movie at all? Because there's some similarities there, kind of clue chasing, these old myths, treasure.
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be comparisons between, you know, Indiana Jones or National Treasure or something like that. Yeah, there is some comparisons there. Yeah,
Sounds like you're very mad on it. You just no passion either way.
It really, basically what it made me feel at the end was, I really want to play Uncharted 4, because that is a better experience. And it's a weird feeling, because the movie's about 2 hours long, and it simultaneously feels like incredible. It feels very rushed at certain points, but in some instances that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's always like moving along. Like it never felt like it really dragged. We were always going to the next place, and it never was just like stopped and got really, really boring on something. But yeah, it just kind of went, and then it was over, and you're like, oh, we're already at the end. And I think that's where you have the games. They have a much longer runtime to be able to explain things and have certain moments, and the movie just doesn't have that luxury. So they just need to keep going and keep the plot going. And once you get to the end where they found the treasure, it's like, whoa, we're already here? Like, that was fast. The final scene is pretty cool, you know, if a bit unbelievable, with most of these scenes really are, but it was a completely different feeling than the games. They didn't do anything like it in the game, so that was cool. And they set up another movie, so I'm sure we'll get another one if it continues to do well. Obviously, I can't talk about too much more in terms of story. We'll be talking about that next week when you guys go and see it this weekend. But yeah, it is pretty meh to me. Like, you can go and see it and have a good time. Again, I don't think it's awful, but you would be much better served with the games, I think. Just the characterization and just the story, I think, is better in those games, and it's more heartfelt, especially when you get into Uncharted 4. Like, that is on a level well beyond what this movie could have ever accomplished. But I will say, I am surprised at how cohesive the movie is when it has been in development hell for years. I think that in itself is pretty commendable, that the movie makes sense by the end.
Meh and fine is a lot better than most video game movies can say.
Right.
So,
yeah. So, you know, it's all right.
Yeah, hearing you say that Tom Holland doesn't fit, I've been feeling that way from the trailers. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to think of him in this role. And hearing you confirm that is like, yeah, that seems about right. It feels like he's playing a character rather than looking at him and seeing Nathan Drake. Just from the trailers is already how I feel.
Yeah. And it is disappointing, because we had the perfect cast. They already showed it to us, and Nathan Fillion could have been perfect. But Tom Holland is the bankable actor, so they just need to have him be in it. And
I always say that scene in the Sonic movie where they're in the truck as Eggman's robots are blowing it up down the highway, and James Marsden is like clinging on outside on the side of the door, and he's wearing a 2-button long sleeve blue shirt. Yeah, Henley. He looks like Nathan Drake in that scene. And I was like, that'd be a better casting too than Tom Holland.
There could have been other options. They wanted to make young Nathan Drake, and they wanted to put the bankable actor in there. And I get that. I'm sure that'll put more butts in seats, you know, because not everyone is just a big Uncharted game fan. Some people are just like, oh, Tom Holland is in this new movie, I'll go and see it. And then maybe from there they'll find the games, and that would be cool. But for someone who has played all the games and has this certain characterization of Nathan Drake and Sully, it does feel different. And
How's
at certain
Chloe?
points, it doesn't feel right. Chloe, yeah. I can see her more than I could see Sully and Nate. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll take
Yeah,
that.
I think her characterization is a little bit better. Obviously, this is a Chloe that we didn't, you don't really see too much in the original because this is
No.
in the past. But yeah, I can see her more than I saw Nate and Sully. So I don't know what that says about the main cast, but yeah, I think I liked her character.
Cool. Well, yeah, Zach and I are seeing it on Saturday, so we'll do a spoiler cast
Yeah,
for the
or we
Uncharted
can
movie next week.
actually talk about the plot points. Also, I had this weird thing where the audio kind of freaked out for a second. It got I don't know how to just describe it exactly. It sounded like they were really far away. Like it sounded almost like tinny, and
That's weird.
it was bizarre. Like there was no ambient sound. It was just like voice for like a minute or two, and then it reverted back to normal. So I'm assuming that was just my theater. But
yeah.
I'll be curious if you guys run into anything weird like that in your showing because, yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, decent movie. Surprised that it exists at this point and that it came out and is a fine movie. But don't go in expecting anything fantastic or to the level that the actual games are because you will be disappointed. But if you go in just like, all right, watching an adventure movie, an adventure movie to find treasure and don't have anything beyond that, you'll probably have a fine time. I think it's good enough. Hopefully the next movies will be better.
The Games review score, good enough.
Good enough. I'm not offended by it. So
All right.
yeah.
Well, it looks like we could be seeing more of these Uncharted movies. It was off to a very strong start. It had a big opening weekend, $140 million globally, and Sony is already calling it a new hit movie franchise for Sony Pictures. So
All right.
there very well could be more of these things.
They
Which
set
I'm
up another movie, so
Surprising.
I don't know how many stunts they used from the game. I don't know if there's more than what the trailers show, but they show multiple from the games, and it's like, is the sequel just gonna have like the ones they didn't use? Are they gonna do new ones? Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know. Yeah, there was definitely a lot from the games that they pulled, which sometimes you're like, oh, that's cool, and sometimes you're like, oh, okay, we're doing this again.
Yeah.
Like beyond the plane, there is another scene, which I guess it turns out a little bit differently in the end, but the setup of it is exactly the same as in the games. Like
Yeah, well,
they set up the scene and it's
Uncharted
like
4.
yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about?
That is the one. Yeah.
Yeah, that
was in the
trailers.
most recent trailer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were
The
just at
setup
the
is
auction,
exactly the
sitting
same.
on a cross, and I'm like, okay.
That's so stupid.
I mean, the way that it ends is a little bit different than it did in the game. But when they set up like, oh, we're going to the auction, I'm like, I know how this is gonna go. Like I know what the plan is.
As a distraction.
Yeah.
Grab the cross.
Yeah. Interesting though. Interesting. Video game movies are just going to be a bigger and bigger thing.
More of them coming out all the time.
Yeah.
Support that. And the TV
Yeah.
shows.
But yeah, look forward to next
Watch
week when we can actually dissect the plot of the movie and can go into more of like the actual pacing and how it connects to the plot and stuff because that'll be fun.
We talked about Sonic 3 and the Knuckles show last week, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Knuckles show. That'll be fun. We also got a Nier Automata anime. Kev.
Look, I'm excited for it. I think it'd be cool to explore that world more in a different setting. It seems ripe for an anime adaptation. I think. Yeah, I think this could be one that turns out pretty well. Just doing some like.
Yeah, it seems suited for it. I think like lore-rich world, really stylish. I think it'll fit really well in an anime.
Yeah, with its world, I think that it can go off and it can pull some things from the game, but kind of go off and do its own thing as well, and still feel like Nier Automata. Because there is a lot still that you could explore in that world.
Yeah.
But man, these games are just getting TV adaptations and movies all over the place. Like just in the last couple of weeks, you got Halo getting its second season. You have the BioShock stuff. Nier, Uncharted just came out. Cuphead, which I've heard's good.
It's really good.
I watched it. Hey.
Oh, you did? Did you like
really
it?
Good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. Really good songs in the Cuphead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good musical numbers. Yeah, last week, Capcom was teasing something. It turned out to be Street Fighter 6. Who called it?
Me.
Who here called it? You called it. Okay.
Yeah, that was my guess.
I said Resident Evil 4 Remake. I was wrong.
I feel like we could still see that this year, though. I feel like that's going to be coming.
Sure.
Yeah. Resident Evil's kind of an annualized thing now. There's pretty much something every year.
Speaking of Resident Evil, it was funny so I went into the theater and they've got the poster of Uncharted. And that was that part of the theater, and then I leave and it's the Resident Evil movie showing next. It's like, I guess this is the video game room where they're just showing all terrible. I mean, it's Resident Evil. Like, all of those movies were bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But Street Fighter 6 was announced. Quick teaser trailer. A very buff Ryu, more buff than before. People obsessing over his feet on social media.
What was the whole thing about like him being super wide? Did they screw that up? Like too wide? Weird. I think people were like reverting it back to like normal aspect ratio, and it looks normal or something. I don't know. It's weird. Because
in the trailer, it looks like the Fist of the North Star character, just enormous, freaking huge. Yeah, definitely different. But Zach, you've been a little into Street Fighter. Does Street Fighter 6 do anything for you?
Yes, after watching this trailer, it's clear that they're moving in a very different direction from what they've been doing recently with Street Fighter 4 and 5. 4 and 5 were very artistic in their own right, and 5 kind of just looked like a more polished version of 4, but it had a very distinct style, and they are doing something entirely different. They're going in a more quote-unquote realistic direction, more like the Tekken games or the Mortal Kombat games, where they're just trying to set aside some of their failings of the past couple games and and I think they're doing a fresh start kind of thing where they're really revamping the whole Street Fighter brand. There's been a lot of controversy about how bad the logo looks.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's really
I
bad.
like the comparisons to the email where it's like your notifications. Also, apparently it's just on like stock image sites, almost exactly the same images.
It is.
Yeah.
And I don't love the new direction they're headed in. I like the style of Street Fighter 5. I think it looks really good. I think it fits the whole vibe that Street Fighter's been going for ever since the beginning, and direction that it's heading in. So, I mean, it was a very short teaser trailer, so we don't know much, but I don't love it. But I do like the fact that they went with grungy Ryu as his new base outfit, because that was one of his second player outfits in Street Fighter 5, and it's just him he should look like nowadays. So I like that a lot, that they're moving that to what his more standard look for the upcoming game. And it showed alongside him the new main character, whose name I am forgetting, but he looked weird. He looked really weird. He still had his really big forearms, but he looked more realistic, so he just looked really off, and he was crazy veiny. Luke, yes. He looked kind of uncanny valley. It was just kind of creepy. So they're going to have to do a lot of stuff to catch my eye. I'm interested in it, especially since I have gotten more into Street Fighter recently. Yeah, this was just an announcement of an announcement. So we're just know it exists now, which we kind of already did, because, of course, they're making a Street Fighter 6. And we'll learn more in the summer time.
And the logo might not be final. We don't know.
Oh, of course.
You would hope so.
Especially after this.
If they thought it was going to be
crazy to
final,
think that they could change the logo. It's not going to take a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty hard to glean basically anything from these very teasery trailers where it's like, yep, we know it exists, and yep, the logo don't look so good. That's about it. There's not too much you can say about that.
Yeah, Street Fighter 6, Street Fighter 5, long time ago at this point. So yeah, feels like time.
Yeah, well, the final season pass literally just finished like a month ago.
Well, they had five seasons.
That game was
DLC?
supported for a very long time.
because it had no content at launch, right?
Exactly. The way it started was awful.
Mm-hmm.
The way it ended was actually not that bad.
Yeah, it has 45 characters now? I think I saw. So
I'm not sure about
that's
the
a
final
lot.
number, but definitely
Mhm.
a lot of good support in the later years.
And they re-released it twice with like the arcade edition and the ultimate edition.
In chip edition, yeah.
I remember it was very bare bones though when it came out, which has a pattern for some of these fighting games. Although King of Fighters 15 has a ton of fighters at launch, like 35, I
39.
think.
39.
39.
That's pretty good.
That's a great number for launch. For
Got to
games
be
like that.
divisible by 3 because it's teams of 3, so it's 13
Okay.
teams. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Some good news for me and Kevin. As we suspected, Next Level Games is handling development of Mario Strikers Battle League, which is coming out this June on Switch. It looked like it from the trailer, but we just had to be sure. The original developer is working on it. Most recently released Luigi's Mansion 3, one of the best Switch games. So, and now we got this coming. We know it's from Next Level, and this only reconfirms this is a day one buy for me, Kev.
Yep, they have handled the series well in the past with the first 2 games, and they're still pumping out fantastic games. So I have total faith in them that the Battle League is going to be fantastic. But yeah, it was nice to know and nice to confirm that that they're back at it for this one.
Yeah, I'm just really curious to see if the content rollout plan is the same as it was for Tennis Aces and Golf Super Rush, which were both handled by Camelot, who has only been working on Mario sports games for a really long time. Since Golden Sun was the last time that I think they made a.
I think you can tell that they're getting a little bit burned out.
yeah, but there was really piecemeal content playing, all the updates, but characters coming after launch, and courses, stages, modes coming after launch. And in the announcement trailer, there's only 10 characters in Battle League, so maybe it'll be the same thing, or maybe that's not the final roster. That's just who they were ready to show now. But I kind of hope there's a little more at launch than especially what Golf had at launch, which felt really light for a full price game. It did eventually get more. I didn't care anymore at that point. That game had other problems, but yeah, I hope that Battle League's more feature complete.
Yeah, hopefully they have got a fair amount of fields, both if they can pull from the original 2 games and make some new ones as well that could pad out the amount of fields that they have. And hopefully there's more characters, or if there isn't, that they have new characters in the pipeline pretty quick after launch. That would be ideal.
Daisy's not in the launch lineup as of now,
Oof.
which is crazy.
She's
to
a
be
striker
there. Staple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got to be in there. You got to have at least the same amount as the last game.
Mm-hmm.
Got to bring them all back.
With the 10 characters in a 4-on-4 sport, you're going to be seeing the same characters every time.
Yeah.
With 8 people out there. I bet you can have repeats. Like, if I have Mario, I bet you can still have Mario on your team. But still,
doppelgangers.
Yeah, that's not a ton. But I did watch a trailer breakdown, and there looks like a lot of detail there. The split court thing, or the split field thing, is really cool that they shot off the trailer. Like, something like, as a sports fan, I was always like, who's the home team? Who's the road team in these strikers matches? And it looks like in Battle League, they're like, each side brings half of a home stadium to the match, which is super cool. It's very Mario Strikers. Like, that totally fits with the vibe. Yeah, everything I see about this game gets me really excited.
I'm hyped for it. Yeah, it's going to be day one for me.
Online play.
Ooh.
Yep. And then we got Soul Hackers 2 from Atlas, sequel to a 1997 Sega Saturn game. And I believe a remake of that game is on 3DS.
3DS,
but
yep.
It's really expensive.
Now,
when I was on eBay earlier, I think the cheapest I saw was $80 for it.
All the SNT games and spin-off games on 3DS.
Basically anything by Atlas. Really.
Yeah.
It was Radiant Astoria. It was really bad, too. Yeah, but this is a cool announcement. Love to see sequels like 25 years later. That's always something that's pretty exciting, because you know that there's diehard fans out there that can't believe that one of their favorite games is getting a follow-up, and a game I've heard is pretty good.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I also appreciate that they announced this and they have a lot of details about it, and it's coming out this summer. This isn't a Street Fighter thing where like they do this whole like countdown thing, like, whoa, what's it gonna be? And then like, oh, this thing exists. Come back for more later. It's like, this game is here. It's coming out in August. Get excited. I did not play Soul Hackers. I've only played Persona 5, but it looks like there's some things that are pulled from Persona, since it is part of that series with Persona and Shin Megami Tensei. It's part of that universe. But looks like there's stuff that's exclusive to Soul Hackers as well. So it looks super interesting. That's around the time that Saints Row is out, so I probably won't pick it up at launch, but maybe one to keep my eye on at some point.
Neat.
Yeah.
Min Min Amiibo coming out April 29th. Steve and Alex Amiibo delayed. They were supposed to come out this spring, but they're delayed, and we've gotten no word on Pyra, Mithra, Sephiroth, Kazuya, and Sora. So it's a long game for these characters. Min Min's been out for over a year.
Took some time.
Yeah, well over a year actually at this point. So the Amiibo looks great though. I don't know if you guys looked at the figure. It looks really good. She's got the dragon arm, which is a super cool design. Yeah, Steve and Alex, weird that those are delayed because they're like the least
pretty
complicated
simple
things.
Yeah. Compared to the Min Min one especially, that's way complicated.
Maybe they just put all the effort into
nothing. They ran out of plastic.
Oops.
on all the Min Min ones.
Yeah.
And Sora is still the only one that hasn't gotten an announcement yet.
The eternal question remains.
They're not going to give him one. I guess Disney, yeah, good point.
Will this collection, 8 years in the making, go unfinished?
One
There's
character
no way.
short. You would have to hope
There's
that
no way.
when they got Sora, they're like, all right, we got to have an Amiibo too.
Yeah. It's got to be a part of the contract negotiations to get the character in at all. I have to believe that, or I will lose it. I have to believe. Okay, let's get into our rumor roundup for the week. Sonic Frontiers back making headlines again. Not really, but we did get a little snippet of information. Apparently, Sega PR is sending out a new image of Sonic that says speeding into 2022, and it has a new model of Sonic, and the backdrop is the main level from Sonic Frontiers.
Oh.
So I mostly bring this up because it's a new character model for Sonic, and his quill length looks a little longer than what it was in Forces. So the fans are excited about that. But a lot of people think the render looks off. A lot of people say his mouth looks weird, and it kind of does. It kind of does. I'm going to send you guys this.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you guys this real quick. Maybe I'll hold up some janky version on the video version if you're watching. But his mouth does look a little weird. It's a little more curved than I think we're used to. And a lot of people are like, is this what his model's going to look like? Or is it going to be different? So I just sent you guys the picture of what this thing looks like. So you can look at it for yourself.
Let's see it. As long as we got the quill length, that's all that really matters.
Yep. And it says that Sega's using this image to promote the Sonic brand in 2022. And you can see he's like coming out of a warp. And then in the background, you can see the main island that we've seen so far from Sonic Frontiers.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like his mouth has
is
like
weird.
a Photoshop error.
It looks like bent
moved slightly down. Yeah.
Everything else to me is fine.
Yeah, it looks fine. I think his gloves look like Mario's hands.
They kind of do.
They look kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
It's a weird model of Sonic. He kind of looks like he's from 2006 and just like popped out. Yeah. And then some people are saying, I don't disagree, the new render of Sonic looks off, but can we not use this to say Sonic Frontiers will suck? I'm just going to say, if anybody is using this to think that, no, all you need to do to say Sonic Frontiers will suck is look at Sonic Team's track record.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, I have no faith in them that it's going to be good. Not based on quill length.
We'll tweet this picture on the Ode to Games Twitter account. So while you're listening, you can go and pull it up at Ode to Games on Twitter and take a look at this thing for yourself. Because the mouth does look weird. It looks really strange to me.
Yeah, let us know if you figure out exactly how long that quill length is.
Yeah, how long is
in
the
Sonic Worlds' measurements.
Yep.
We got to know if it's any different.
There were those new Sonic movie posters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got a Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic one.
It's coming out soon.
The Sonic one referenced quills.
Did.
So
I saw that.
It said license to quill, which great pun, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. That's good stuff.
It's like they saw it. They're like, oh, my God. They're talking about quill length. Quill it up.
I'm not sure what the Tails one said, but the tweet that revealed it said 2 Tails, 2 Furious. and I thought that was pretty good. So, Sonic movies in like a month.
Yeah.
Sonic Frontiers is in like a year and a half.
when it gets delayed.
But that's it for Rumor Roundup. Just
Good
that
rumor.
weird new image.
Weird
of
Sonic mouth.
Yeah, weird Sonic mouth.
Good rumor. Good rumor.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Zach.
All right, that's going to do it actually for this week's Rumor Roundup. We're going to be moving on to things we've been playing this week, other than Horizon Forbidden West. We haven't heard from Kevin about anything he's played this week. Anything on your end, Kevin?
It's the same stuff. Played some more Captain Toad. Enjoying that. Like I've said before, it's a nice game to pop in for a couple of levels, have some fun, and then do something else. But from what I'm playing of it, I'm enjoying it. It's good fun. Wario World is the other one that I'm working on. That game's weird. it's just weird. I still cannot get over that pause menu music. It is actually grating. Like multiple times, like I'll be sitting there, I'm like, oh, I gotta go do something, or like, I'll talk to my girlfriend for a second, and I pause the game, like, nope, I gotta unpause it. Like I can't listen to it. But it's still fun. The worlds are varied. Wario plays very differently than any other Nintendo game, especially now. You go back and play that with his punches and grabs and his, like stomping down with enemies. What would you call it? Like a ground pound with the enemy. Doing his spin attack.
Like a suplex?
Yeah, suplex. There we go. Yeah, the combat just feels completely different than any other game that Nintendo's doing right now. They have not done a game like this in a while. Yeah, the boss fights are a little bit weird sometimes. Like, sometimes I don't know exactly how to damage the enemies. Like, I just pick them up and throw them every time. And then, like, a couple of times it just won't hurt them. And I'm like, okay, like, what happened there? And then I got to do it all over again. The boss fights are weird. You have like a weird crocodile and a Speedo in like a volcano, which was very weird. And then you have the dinosaur who's like wearing underwear or something. Like, the whole game is bizarre. Like, it's just weird. But I like it for it because it's really like nothing else, especially nowadays with Nintendo. You go back and play something like this and it's like, yeah, they're not making anything like this. And it's a solid platformer. I enjoy the main world areas. I enjoy the side areas where it looks like Super Mario Sunshine's like special levels, and I appreciate that there's no lives so that I'm not like sweating as I'm trying to do one of these ridiculous jumps. It's super forgiving for that, and it's just a good time like collecting things, and you're just like going back through the levels. Although there was one level that really annoyed me. So basically you run through the level to the end, and if you've missed some of the collectibles, you go back to the start. There's a section at the end where you can decide to go back to the start or just go to the boss fight. And it was a snow level, and you had to go down these ice walls and hit the exact jumps where the collectible was. And if you missed it, you have to go all the way to the end of the level, go back to the beginning, and then do it again and hope you hit it. And the way the camera was, it was really hard to see exactly where the treasure was. So it was just like, oh God, like.
Are you going for 100%?
Yeah. It's not super hard. Besides that one level and the annoying ice walls. But other than that, yeah, it's a pretty comfortable romp through, and you get enough coins to pay off. I like the live systems where you just gather coins and then you pay for extra health throughout the level or pay for an extra life when you die. I like that more than just the live system and game overs where you have to restart the entire level. It's a lot more forgiving for that. But yeah, it's fun, and I'd like to recommend it, but the only way that you can play it is either dropping a fat stack of cash on the original or emulating it. So go emulate it if you want to play it, because
Are you playing
it's
it?
a good time. What?
Are you playing it?
How am I playing it?
What even is it on? I don't know how old
GameCube.
this game is.
GameCube.
Oh, GameCube.
So 2004, 2005.
And you own an original copy?
In Japanese.
Japanese.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
it's
Japanese
cheap.
copy.
But
Yeah,
very
Japanese
cheap.
GameCube games are so much cheaper, and it's great to be able to go back and experience some of these games that I never got the chance to and are just ridiculously expensive now. So I'd recommend if you're at all interested in it, just go emulate it because that's the way to do it at this point.
I'm gonna place a bid on a physical copy after the show.
Really?
Oh yeah.
All right.
I see one that has 3 days left, and no one has bid on it yet. So I'll throw my hat.
This
in.
is a long time.
Yeah.
All right.
I've wanted this one for a long time, and hearing that you're playing it and you like it, and we think pretty similarly about a lot of like 3D Mario stuff, I'll probably like it. So
I think you'll like it. Don't
It's
drop too
interesting.
much money on it, but
nah, it's interesting. Like Wario and DK used to have so many games. Like I look at the DS era and prior to that, and you got Master of Disguise, Wario Land Shake It, Wario World on GameCube, all the Wario Land games on Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, and now just nothing. And
Yeah.
Donkey Kong's the same thing. He used to have so many games, and now Tropical Freeze is 8 years old and was the last new Donkey Kong game besides the mini stuff, which doesn't really count. So it's kind of crazy that these two used to get games all the time, and we're hearing maybe Donkey Kong could come back in a big way this year. But man, when's Wario going to get his
I'd
due?
love to see
WarioWare's all
Wario
he's
come
got.
back. Yeah, because I mean, people love WarioWare. I think Wario World's a fun time, and I've heard that Shake It
Shake It's
on
great.
Wii I've
I
heard
love
is
that
great.
game.
A completely
it's
different
fun.
style, completely 2D as compared to Wario World's more 3D collectathon thing. But I've heard that game is great too. I don't know why they haven't brought him back yet.
It has
They're
that
good
thing
times.
where you reach the end of the level, and like Indiana Jones style, you remove the trophy or the idol, and then you have to escape the level as it crumbles around you. Every level does that, and it's super cool the different ways that you have to escape and how it plays with the paths, and it's just super cool idea that only Wario really has. So yeah, bring that back.
Bring back Wario. You brought back Strikers, bring back baseball, bring back Wario. Some good games. Or at the very least, make these games more accessible. Good God. People actually give people a way to play Wario World or Shake It or whatever. Because they're good games. People should play them. They're fun. But that's all I've been playing this week.
As for me, aside from Horizon Forbidden West, which has taken up a chunk of my time,
8 hours.
8 hours to be exact. Not a whole lot of time, but some of my time. I also beat Deathloop again with my friend, trying to go for the platinum at a not crazy fast pace, just at my own leisure. Nothing more to say on that front, other than there's
Say
this...
the online thing you told me.
I was gonna one of the features of Deathloop is that you can the main game as Colt, or you can also play as Juliana, the other assassin on the island, whose main goal is to hunt down and kill Colt, and she acts as a hindrance in the main game as you're playing as Colt. Juliana might pop in your world. It might be a CPU Juliana, or a player can play as Juliana, hop in your world, and try and kill you. I had not played as Juliana up until this point recently, where there's a trophy where you have to play as Juliana and kill Colt. So I tried to play as Juliana, started matchmaking, waited 10 minutes,
That's not a good
nothing,
sign.
and then just gave up. Which means that there's not a lot of people playing Deathloop right now.
And so that also means that trophy is
Juliana
tied
feature
to the
turned on.
online feature.
Yes. But
Love it.
you can also just hop into a random online game, or you can also hop into your friend's game. So if you happen to have a friend who also has Deathloop, you can coordinate like Logan does, and he kindly offered
Okay, cool.
to let me
Come
hop
on in
into
and
his
kill
world.
me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'll give you that trophy.
Yeah.
There's two trophies that you can get as Juliana. Are online dependent. That's it.
All right, that's not
What's
rest
the
of
other
the
one
trophies,
besides
yeah.
kill someone?
Be
You
killed.
have to use the masquerade ability to pretend to be Colt while you're in one of
Okay.
Colt's worlds. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So not terribly difficult, but that trophy's only going to get harder and harder as less and less people are
Yeah.
consistently playing Deathloop.
Yeah, not everybody's got a friend who's got the game as well. A lot of people, it's just
Yeah,
them
lucky
that played it.
coincidence that I do. Yeah, exactly.
Good time to be a Deathloop fan.
Yep, good time
Time.
to be Logan's friend again.
Yeah.
Give you the trophy.
It's always a good
Slogan.
time.
Right. Then, other than that, I started playing Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which is a complicated name that I always mix up in some way or another. This game is an old DS game I bought for Logan as a birthday present, but am playing myself before I give it to him for his birthday. He knows I got it for him. This isn't
So
a
you
spoiler
didn't just
or
like
anything.
spoil it to him right now.
No, exactly.
I guessed it.
Guessed it. I gave him a hint and said if he could get it, which I really didn't think he would, I would tell him, and he got it. So kudos to him
good.
for getting it. It wasn't his first guess, but he got it eventually, which was very impressive. So I decided it's not a very long game. I decided to just play it before giving it over for his birthday. And I got it for Logan because it's written by Shu Takumi, the writer of the original Ace Attorney games and the Great Ace Attorney games. And it's, a DS game, so it's hard to find. So I bought an old copy on eBay. And I figured this was probably my best opportunity to play it, so I should probably play it before I give it over to him. And I started it, and I played it for a little bit. It's a puzzle game where you play as a ghost who's solving his own murder. And he can possess objects to solve puzzles, and he can go back in time to. It's basically how you problem solve. Is you fail at the problem solving, you can go back in time, and you can correct your mistakes. And it's really difficult. I find myself getting stuck fairly frequently on these puzzles.
No Aloy to tell you what to do.
Exactly. I really wish I had Aloy to just be like, yo, you gotta possess that right now. Do it. No, this is actually a very challenging puzzle game, but I think it's very charming. I like the design of the characters. The writing's really good, of course, because it is the writer of the Ace Attorney franchise. So
There's some references.
There is some references. Missile the dog I just ran into, who is great in this game because you can actually talk to the dog. I'm pretty sure that's
the name of Shu Takumi's dog, and so he just throws him in every game he writes.
I like it. I like it a lot. So this game's a lot of fun, and let's hope that I am smart enough to actually beat it by the time Friday when I have to.
Good luck
to Logan.
I'm super excited to play it. I've only heard great things by it, and yeah, it's after he left the Ace Attorney series. This is what he went and made before they dragged him back in for the Layton crossover and eventually the Great Ace Attorney games. And yeah, I've heard it's really, really good. Thanks, Zach.
I like it a lot so far. And it's already increased in price dramatically since I bought it a month ago.
Wow.
I mean,
bought it for like $90 and now it's like $180. It's like doubled in price.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's insane.
I think, probably part of that is just the byproduct of time and the thing we're going to be talking about next year, if that's all we got. Mm-hmm. 3DS and Wii U. So we were talking about it last week, the eShop shutdowns, which are happening next year. So if you are looking for things or had some things on the back burner that you wanted to get to at some point in terms of the 3DS, now is the time, both physically and digitally. Digitally, of course, the eShop is going away, and at a certain point, that's just going to be completely inaccessible. You won't be able to pick up any games there, and some of them are digitally. But physically as well, the games are already starting to go up in price. So if you're on the lookout for stuff, I'd say go sooner rather than later, because things are only going to get more and more expensive from here. I know that me and Logan have been a little bit busy picking stuff up. You saw at the beginning of the show, Zach has my copy of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon that I picked up.
A copy until it's out of my hands.
Feel free to play it if you want. You have it.
I'd
like to make sure that it actually works.
I should test it just to make sure, because
ideally.
If it doesn't, you'll need a return.
Picked up Link Between Worlds, Zelda, and Smash for 3DS, and looking on the lookout for some other stuff. Logan, what have you picked up so far?
By the way, great picks. Link Between Worlds I love, and Smash is worth having too. And isn't that expensive? So
especially not right now. It's one to hop in now. It's not going to break the bank or anything.
One that doesn't break the bank that I don't really care about, but I knew down the road, like, I wish I'd tried this at some point. Mario Sports Superstars. Been in a big Mario Sports mood lately, as you all know. This is the one that comes with it's basically the sequel to Sports Mix, kind of. And it has golf, soccer, baseball, tennis, and horse racing. The tennis and golf are basically straight rips from the 3DS versions of those games, Mario Tennis Open and Mario Golf World Tour, but less content. And then baseball, I've heard, is the worst it's ever been in a Mario Sports game, because there's no fielding. You just hit and pitch, and that's it. And then soccer has no personality like like Strikers does. It's basically like the Mario and Sonic Olympic Games soccer.
Ooh.
And then horse racing, I've heard is decent. Heard that it's all right. So I'm excited to try that one out. Yeah, this one had amiibo cards, which it says amiibo card included on the box, but I did not get an amiibo card.
Oh.
The listing said does not come with amiibo card, so they were honest about it on
That's
eBay,
good.
but
That's good.
yeah. Yeah, just another Mario sports game to add. And then one I'm very excited about, Luigi's Mansion. Not Dark Moon, but the remake of the original GameCube game. It was like a 2018 or late 2017 3DS game, well after the Switch was out. And I think it came out the same day as the Xbox Series X, which is random. Or not, sorry,
Xbox One X.
It's not Series X.
Great naming for Xbox. Not confusing at all.
Yeah, because I remember I was at a GameStop and like, we're doing a midnight launch for Luigi's Mansion. I was like, why? It's like, oh, because the Xbox is also coming out.
So you can
that makes more sense.
Kill two birds with one stone.
But really excited to play this. I've never played the original Luigi's Mansion. I've watched it. I watched my sister play it when I was a kid. But I'm excited to play it. It has 2 players. It has Guigi.
Making an appearance.
Actually, this is interesting. A little Luigi's Mansion timeline shenanigans. This is an alternate history version of Luigi's Mansion because Luigi is sent back in time from Luigi's Mansion 3 and alters the history of what happens in the original Luigi's Mansion.
Did they really have to go that far?
They didn't, but they did.
Okay.
So I think that's really funny that if you have Luigi, it's like, oh, alternate history of the original Luigi's Mansion.
You're following a different timeline.
Yeah.
And of divergent timelines of Luigi's Mansion. I did not think we were going to get that.
I also just love this cover. I love the ghost design in the original Luigi's Mansion. They have character that Dark Moon and 3 don't quite.
Yeah, I have not played Dark Moon, obviously, but I played 3 and loved it. But there is something about the original that just has a very different vibe to it. Like, obviously, it's not scary. Like, it's not. But it does have a little bit more of a creepiness factor to it.
More atmosphere.
Than I think Dark Moon or 3 have.
This one does brighten things up compared to the original GameCube release, so I think it might be more akin to 2 and 3, but just the monster designs, like, I remember the baby, and you end up, like, going in its crib.
Yeah.
And, like, it transports you to some other arena. There's just a lot of cool, unique boss characters.
Yeah.
So, that's what I got. I'm looking for a few other things, too, though.
Yeah, so you wrote a piece for IGN, plugging that. Yeah, before we get into some of the stuff that we're going to be continuing to look out for. Personally, if people haven't seen the article yet, you should go and read it. But any highlights, things that you want to mention on here for people to keep an eye out for?
So Lucy, the features editor, approached me and she's like, do you want to about 3DS and Wii U games? I'll leave it up to you on how many to include. And the headline ended up being 100 Wii U and 3DS games that you should download before the eShops close. Because I just couldn't stop. I just couldn't help myself. There's so much content here that is worth saving. It's split up into 3 categories. You've got the digital-only stuff. This is the only place to buy it, the only way to play it. Then you've got the virtual console games that are really expensive on their original hardware. And then I just also threw in a few, like, the physical copies exist, but are super expensive. And so I did a lot of research and found that Devil's Third is now going for $500.
So the decision between PS5 and Series X or Devil's Third on Wii U?
Devil's Turd, as it's lovingly called in the Wii U community. But yeah, a couple digital-only things. The Box Boy games, super good, super short, and really cheap. They're from HAL Labs, the Kirby developers, and really clever puzzles in those games. The Pushmo series is another one with really good puzzles. There's 4 games in that are digital-only. You got Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, a haggling game, if any of you remember, where you haggle with the shop owner for real-world prices of the baseball minigames, which is super crazy. Like, if you're nice to him, he'll be like, I'll knock 50 cents off the price. So it's like gameplay for price, which is super interesting. An important one is Xenoblade Chronicles X, because it is a physical game that's not too expensive to find, but it has those data packs where the game runs better and looks better if you have an external Wii U hard drive and you install these data packs. So the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X is going away once these downloadable packs aren't accessible. So if you care about Xenoblade, which I think more and more people do every day with how much that attention it's getting on Switch,
especially when 3 comes out, you always have people going back and trying to experience, the games of the past. So you have to get on that.
A few others like Dr. Luigi, the Street Pass games, the Ace Attorneys, like we talked about last week. But virtual console games, I knew how good the Wii U virtual console was, but going through and making this, it's like, there is so much Nintendo history here. Just even apart from the mainstream stuff, like Zelda and Mario. Like, every Metroid you can get 2 Golden Sun games on Wii U Virtual Console, which are really expensive. You can get Drill Dozer, which is a Nintendo first-party game that not a lot of people checked out that I'm going to buy and looks really cool. The Advance Wars games, both the originals that are getting remade and the DS one that is not getting remade, so that's going away. You've got Galaxy 2, we talked about last week. Explorers of Sky, Mystery Dungeon for Pokemon. That game's like $110 physically. And you can get it right now for $10. And people love that game. Did you play that one, Kevin?
No, I played Explorers of Time, I think. Okay, I did not play Sky.
Sky was the third version, like the Emerald to Ruby and Sapphire. And it has a bunch of new content. And it's like one of the community's favorite Mystery Dungeon games. And it's just going to go away. All 3 Ranger games you can get on Wii U. Those games are solid. Pikmin 1 and 2, which are super expensive to get on either Wii or GameCube. You can get on Wii U. It's the new Play Control version for the Wii. And then physical games that exist, Twilight Princess HD is $100. I did not realize
that's crazy.
How expensive that was. It never got a Nintendo Selects version like Wind Waker HD did. It's just super expensive, so that's one worth grabbing. Game & Wario, not the best game, but it's a fun party game. $100. Buy it now on eBay. Wii Sports Club, you want to play Wii Sports in HD before Nintendo Switch Sports? $85 on eBay. Like $15 on the Wii U eShop. Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology is on 3DS. It's a really underrated JRPG. It's like $100 now. The Dragon Quest games we talked about, and then we were talking about it earlier in the show. Every Shin Megami Tensei game, of which there are like 6 different ones on 3DS, are all like 90 or higher on eBay.
All those Atlas games.
So, yeah, and that's just some of them. So yeah, go check out the article. A lot of people were dropping me comments like, Logan, you just made me spend a bunch of money. I'm like, well, I think that's a good thing. There's some good stuff in here you should check out.
Get the word out there. Yeah, it is really disappointing looking back on the Wii U. I didn't even realize how far it went. Like, you obviously knew that like NES and Super Nintendo and N64, all the stuff that was there and the Wii generation would come back. But like, I forgot that Game Boy Advance it was there. Like, I knew that at one point, and I didn't even realize DS was supported. Like, that's crazy. Like,
Bizarre.
It's wild that they basically connected nearly all of their consoles together on Wii U, and then you get to Switch and they just abandon all that. And they're just like, oh, Switch Online, we've got 100 games on there.
It's a sign of the success of a console. The Wii U was struggling. No games were coming out for it, and they had to throw whatever they could to try to get people to pick up that system. That's the only reason the GBA and DS games never came to 3DS, because they threw them on Wii U instead to incentivize a reason to own that platform. But the Switch has games all the time. There's too many games to play on Switch, and it's selling like crazy, so there's just not that need, that desperation to put whatever content they can on the platform.
Disappointing that it requires a need.
Yeah. It's like you have some of the best games ever made, some of the best libraries ever, and they're just not accessible for people to play.
Yeah, and it's just it's still weird. Like, obviously the secondhand market, Nintendo sees none of that. But if they remove the digital storefronts, then they really don't see any of that. Like, I'm sure that there's a bunch of people that right now they're looking at eBay prices for games and they're like, screw that. Like, that's way too expensive. And then they go to the eShop and buy it. 3 or 4 years later, someone could pick up that system and be like, and look at these games like, oh, I don't want to pay those prices on eBay. And then they look and realize that there's no option digitally. And it's like, well, I'll either spend $100-some on a game. Nintendo sees none of that money, or I just pirate it. Like it's crazy that those are the options that they give you, where they see none of that. But they.
So what other games are you after, Kev?
Well, specifically, I'm looking for a new 3DS XL model. I still have an original 3DS XL, and so I'd like to get one before it gets super crazy. The Dragon Quest games I'd like to get. I don't want to spend some of the crazy prices that they're going for, but if I see them for a decent price, like $50-$60, if some stroke of luck were to happen, I'll look for those and pick those up. Bravely Second, I'm regretting that I didn't pick it up when it was in the bargain bin. I remember seeing that constantly at the bargain bins, and now that's starting to go up. Robobot's another one. I've heard that it's like the one really good Kirby game, so especially on 3DS, so that'd be nice to have. Monster Hunter Stories would be a nice one. I want to pick up Stories 2 at some point, so it'd be nice to have the original to play. Ever Oasis, I really regret not picking it up on Amazon. It was still about MSRP at one point on Amazon for a new copy, and now you're looking at $70+ for that. Another late generation, end of the generation, basically 3DS game. The Mario and Luigi games, I want to play Superstar Saga. I've heard that one's great. Dream Team and Paper Jam I know are not very good, but I'd still like to play them. I like the Mario and Luigi games, so they'd be fun to have. The other Zelda games, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, keep an eye out for them. Yeah, those are some of the main ones. Those are more retail.
Still pretty reasonable priced, yeah.
Yeah, I'm mostly avoiding the super crazy expensive Atlas ones. Again, like if I saw them for a decent price on eBay, $50 or $60, I'd probably pick them up. But
what about like digitally? Are you ever gonna buy some of these? Like Last Resort shop is closing.
I would probably buy them. Yeah. So obviously for digital only, the Ace Attorney games I want to pick up at some point. A lot of the
They're
digital
on sale right now.
Oh, they are on sale. Right, they got on sale?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be picking those up then.
Like the day after Nintendo announced the shops were closing, there was like big Ace Attorney sale on 3DS. All right.
I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah, some of the other digital only titles, some of the Game Freak stuff, what Pocket Jockey looked interesting.
Pocket Card Jockey. Yeah.
The Pushmo games and Box Boy looks really interesting. But yeah, in terms of these, I'm going to try, because I know that the price is going to be fixed on the eShop until they shut that thing down. So I'm going to give myself as much time as possible to try and get a physical copy of them for a decent price. And, if all else fails, I'll just pick them up digitally before it shuts down. But yeah, those are some of the ones I'm keeping my eye out for. Logan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm good. I'm mostly good on the Wii U front. We were kind of going through it, and every physical Wii U game I don't really want, especially for the price.
$500.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But what, Dr. Luigi's
really?
The one?
Dr. Luigi. And yeah, that's for sure one I'm going to grab. And then I thought there was something else on Wii U. I don't remember right now. But I'm going to be looking at Virtual Console.
Yeah.
Because there's so many games that I've wanted to play for a long time and Wii U emulation is pretty good for a lot of these consoles. So yeah, I'm just looking at things like Golden Sun, which I want to play. People love those games. There's a couple Fire Emblems. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon is the DS remake of the original with Marth that I want to play. There is that Drill Dozer game I mentioned, which looks super cool. It's developed by Game Freak, a non-Pokemon game by Game Freak. It's apparently really, really good. So that's one I want to check out. There's that Super Mario Bros. 3 GBA port that had the e-reader levels.
Oh.
And in the Virtual Console version on Wii U, all 38 e-reader levels are unlocked. And it's like a whole new Mario game that just only exists there and won't anymore.
Unless you have the cards.
So, yeah.
Should be crazy.
Yeah. So mostly Virtual Console. And then on 3DS, there's some first-party stuff that's kind of cheap that I'll probably pick up. Hey Pikmin is one I joke about, but I like Pikmin, so I'll probably grab that game at some point. And then I want Ever Oasis also. That game looks really great. But yeah, we'll see. And it's like, when do you buy this stuff digitally? Like, is there going to be a big blowout sale?
Yeah.
It's $1 on the last day.
Yeah, because you see some of these other companies like Capcom has always been running sales. Like, every month or two you'll see like, oh, the Ace Attorney games and some of their other games are on sale. But in terms of Nintendo stuff, once the Switch came out, I feel like that was kind of it. Like, they didn't really go back for any of those sales. So who knows? Like, maybe they're of the mind that, oh, we can get as much money as we can out of this because we know that you got no other option. Like, you'll pay the price because it's going away. I hope that's not the thought process, but you don't know. You don't know if they're going to be running a sale or not.
Also, if you do go on a buying spree, get ready to remember how horrible and inconvenient it is to buy a game on 3DS or Wii U. Like,
one at a time.
It takes like 15 steps to buy one game, and you're gonna have to do that a lot.
Especially when you want to bulk buy. In the case of right now, when everything
no cart feature. I mean,
leaving.
Switch is the same way.
Yeah.
Man, I'd love to have some
but
sort
it's
of cart
faster.
feature.
It's more streamlined.
It is.
It is.
Cart feature would be great in any of these storefronts. Obviously, it'd only be the Switch now because these other ones are dying. But yeah, just set aside an evening. Set aside an evening for all those purchases. Zach, are you going to be looking out for anything? I mean, I know you don't have a Wii U, but anything on 3DS?
Yeah, I have been looking at some 3DS stuff, a lot of virtual console stuff, like the old Pokemon games that I don't own physically, and they're crazy expensive, like Red, Blue, Crystal is one that I remember liking a lot.
Crystal's so expensive.
Crystal's like $90.
And
like
very affordable.
Digitally.
Yeah, digitally is like, what? Yeah,
I thought
like
you
$8
bought
or
Crystal.
something?
I thought you already had Crystal.
I have
on
Crystal.
3DS.
You know what? I've got a Pokemon folder. I think I have Crystal,
I think
but
Crystal's
there's
in there.
some other ones that I still want to
Yeah,
buy.
there's
Some of the older
you got
Pokemon
Gen 1
games,
and Gen 2
like
on there.
Yellow, yeah.
Yeah, Yellow's cool.
And the Oracle games for Zelda, I want to pick up
Yes.
digitally because those are also crazy physically. And yeah, some other stuff like Monster Hunter Stories. I think I'll probably at some point try out that franchise, and I don't want the physical version to get crazy expensive for when
I
I
want to
do
get
decide
Monster
to do
Hunter
it.
4 on 3DS.
Yeah, Monster Hunter 4. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff some stuff I haven't even thought about, so who knows? Some of the Fire Emblem games I'm sure are already gonna get crazy expensive, and then A Link Between Worlds I'm borrowing from Logan, but I'd like to own a copy of that too, so.
Well, lucky for you, one's being shipped to your house. So for at least
that's
a
my new
year,
copy.
you
Yeah.
will own it until I come
Sweet. Until I cut ties with Kevin.
Oh my god. Hoard all
All
my
your
games
games.
and then just leave.
Yeah, way to do it.
But yeah, it's always hard with these because I think back to all of those opportunities that I had to buy those 3DS games, but you just never know. It's impossible to plan for this sort of stuff. And then you're bound to reach a point where it's like, oh God, I got to buy all of these things before they all go away. And then at the same time, you're lucky that you get the chance at all. Like for all the people that, you know, didn't have the chance to buy any of those GameCube games and now they're super expensive and you never had that chance. At the very least you got it now, but it's always brutal and you can never plan for it.
And Kev, we were talking. It's like you have to predict what you're gonna want in the future.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks, because like there's so many franchises. I mean, I am hardcore into F-Zero now. 2 years ago, I wasn't. So if this shutdown had happened 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have the games on Wii U.
You don't even think about it.
Dude, yeah. So it's like, am I gonna be super into like Advance Wars in a few years? I have no idea. There's just no way to know what you're gonna wish you'd bought and in a couple of years.
And there's no way to play all of these things to figure out if you really like all of them before the shutdown because they have such a wide library, especially when it comes to virtual console stuff. Yeah. I mean, luckily the virtual console games are cheaper than if you're going to be going out and trying to get all these physical games or even just more retail games. But yeah, at the same time, there are those times where it's like, I don't even know if I'm going to want to play this, but this is the chance to buy it now and play it. Otherwise, there's either really expensive aftermarket or pirating. And those are...
Buy Kid Icarus Uprising.
I have a Canadian
I was
copy.
also looking at that one too.
Have the one with the weird French logo on it.
It's the best.
I just bought Triforce Heroes that also has that French logo on it.
Bought a Canadian copy.
I did. I didn't realize it was so cheap. It still works, I assume.
Yep. Yeah. Canada. Yeah. So for anyone who's out looking for it and doesn't really care what type you get, you've got the regular American version, if you're in America, of course. Canada's also works fine, and the world editions that you may see floating around, those also work with US versions of systems. I have a world edition of Xenoblade Chronicles on Wii, and that works just fine. So if you're wondering if it's going to work, if it's a Canadian, American, or world edition, they'll all work fine on your system. So good luck to everybody trying to get all these games. It's rough.
I know. When I was working on this article, I was like, "Ugh, I'm putting in so many things that I want to buy. I'm recommending these to everyone who's going to read this, and I'm just creating more."
Is there anything you left
for myself?
off? One thing you wanted the most to read about?
That someone has to listen to the end of the show.
I went and bought Luigi's Mansion before this thing went up because I'm like, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, and for anyone looking for those late generation 3DS games, you'll want to get on that now. If you're looking at Ever Oasis, if you're looking at Samus Returns, Luigi's Mansion, if you're looking at
Kirby's
any of those,
Extra Epic Yarn,
if you're not going to get them digitally, if you want them physically, get on that now, because I think those games are in very short supply with their physical versions. So, yeah. Good luck to everybody. It sucks. I hate it. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Elden Ring is getting insane reviews.
People like it. Zach, you going to play it?
I'm planning on it. I didn't realize it was very, very long. It might take me a while, but I have intention to play it.
Logan?
Here's what's tough about Elden Ring, because the reviews are glowing. It's sitting at like a 97 on Metacritic,
which is crazy.
Now. Yeah, but the only people that review Souls games are the people that can finish them, because that's the only people that an outlet would choose to review it, is someone who can actually speak on the game. And the people that complete Souls games are obsessed with Souls games and love them. So it's like a 97 is like, if you're a Souls fan, this is going to maybe be the best game ever for you. Yeah. But if you're not, like, it's tough. I wish that I understand why it doesn't work like this, but I wish some outlets like had 2 reviews, and it's like one person who has never played a Souls game reviews Elden Ring, but they'd get dunked on so hard by the Souls community.
Be like, oh, you don't know how to play this game? Like, get better. And it's like, bro, I have not played any of these. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it is a little bit more forgiving than previous Souls-like games, but at the same time, I think it is very similar to those where it's like, if you didn't really like the style that the Souls games or Bloodborne was going for, or you didn't really like the combat, this one's not going to really change your mind. Like, you have to be in that style of game, or else it's not really going to matter.
It does seem interesting that, like, the other games are linear, so if you're stuck on a boss, you're stuck. But here you can just go to a different one, go to a totally different area,
and then get stuck on that one.
Yeah. But what I wish that it wasn't as brutally difficult, because literally everything I was reading about Elden Ring sounds like the fix to the problems I'm having with Horizon. Like a map that doesn't fill itself out, no guiding on where to go. Like that's the kind of stuff I prefer in an open world. Because otherwise I'm like, what's the point of this open world if you still are gating me down the one golden path? Yeah. So that all sounds really cool to me. It just, it's too intimidating.
You played some of Sekiro, right? That was one
like
that you
2
hopped in
hours,
on,
and it was horribly hard.
Yeah. And I think that's it, right? You play that game and you're just like, the core combat is just not for me. Mm-hmm. And, it doesn't seem like Elden Ring is really going to change your opinion in that regard. Like, you guys know I
love hard games. Like, I love Celeste and things like that, but something about the FromSoft combat that's like so slow and methodical, I just am terrible at it and don't have the desire to invest to get better. But it looks cool. Curious to see what Zach thinks if he picks it up.
Yeah, don't know when I'm gonna pick it up.
You gonna pick it up mid Horizon or after Horizon?
I'm not gonna pick it up mid Horizon.
Okay.
I'm probably once I finish Horizon, I'll probably be playing catch up on games until Ghostwire Tokyo. So I might pick it up in that span of that happens at the end of March. So I'll probably have it before the end of March.
Yeah, now's a tough time to take a flyer on something when you have so much.
Seriously.
Also, it makes it way harder to pick up all of these 3DS games and Wii U games if you have a Wii U, and it's like,
know.
well, I also have
I just spent $70 or $60
brand
on
new
Elden
games.
Ring.
Yeah.
Yep. $70 on Horizon.
Yeah, when you're having to spend
Having
full
to buy
retail
PS5
price.
games makes it very hard to go back and buy old games.
Yeah, because now that Horizon's out, no more $60 PS5 games. No more upgrades. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun times. Anyways, that's going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ode to Games. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, odetogames.com, any other podcast streaming service that you may use. Video version is up on YouTube at Ode to Games. You can find us on Twitter at Ode to Games. Send us an email at odetogamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.